Welcome back to another episode of Absolutely Fabulous. It's episode 77. We're going to be talking about some judging, some show drama. We're also going to be talking about the ABC advisory, gumboot recommendations, stay-at-home mums, short-term versus long-term, as well as Pauline Hanson's statements, which are blowing up the media. But before we get into all of that, Gillian, how are you? What's been going on station?
Oh, on the station. So my beautiful staff, who were like being so helpful, have abandoned me and gone back to the UK temporarily for a wedding and a baby. Like, so it is a good cause and all. But yeah, we're just sort of getting really comfortable with having other people around. And they're like, oh, but we knew it was happening. It wasn't a surprise. We were, quite happy to support them. And because they're like, oh, we want to take the job. But, we just want to let you know we've got this stuff planned. And we're like, yeah, whatever. We know how hard it is to get good staff. You could probably pretty much nearly murder us in our sleep and we'd still have yours. It's fine. But no, they've been really good. And so looking forward to them coming back. We have been up to Alice Springs for Sports Week. That was Eleanor's last Sports Week at the SOA. So that was, she seems fine with it. I'm fine with it. And all the mums kept saying to me, oh, are you sad? And I'm like, I'm sorry not. And also it was the Alice Springs School of the Air 75th birthday celebrations during Sports Week. And everyone was like, oh, it's so exciting. I'm like, yeah, I was here for the 60th birthday. It's cool. It's fine. These things happen. But yeah, it's my last year at Alice Springs School of the Air. So yeah, I am completely over it, to be honest. But yeah, other than that, not a lot. Not a lot's been happening here. Bloody cold. Got the fire going in the house. I'm in the schoolroom with the heater going. We've got a actual air conditioner heater. So yeah, getting too cold for me to get out and about in the day. How about you, Katja? What have you been up to?
The weather here's been really weird. So it's gone from like freezing cold with a couple of frosts, and now we're back in t-shirts and sweating. Like just such an odd set of weather at the moment. More rain is predicted, but as always, we will see if it comes. We've done everything right. We've done everything in preparation for it. So that's all we can do.
Had any rain yet? Not yet.
Last week we had 29 mil at Dubbo and 30 mil out west, but that on its own, it won't be enough unless more comes through. And if this warmer weather hangs around, that'll be awesome, fantastic, for just to get a couple of weeks of growth through. Otherwise, it'll just be green pick. The cattle will go off all their feed, and then yeah, that's no good for anybody. So hopefully the warm weather sticks around, we get some more rain, and then we can head into winter after we get that growth all going
Fingers
right.
crossed.
Everything
Yeah.
we can control. But I've
Yep.
also been away judging. So I went away and judged the jams and preserves as I do every year about this time. Absolutely loved it again. Congratulations to all the winners, the best in exhibits, and everyone else who put their preserves in and jams in this year, because it was, I think, even better quality than last year for that particular event. And yeah, it's
And there
one of
was some
my favorite things.
controversy, wasn't there? Because you texted me, you said, oh my God, there's some controversy at the show. And I'm like, in the photography section, I'm like, oh my God, it was AI. Someone's put in an AI photo. But what happened, Katja? Tell me the drama.
Now,
What
it wasn't
happened?
an AI image. However, the debate is it the steward's responsibility or the judge's responsibility to judge the criteria as listed? So, Australian native flora. So that's Australian native plants. Photography of Australian native plants. Now, guess what won the section?
It has to be a noxious weed, surely. Someone took a picture of like a prickly pear or a prickly acacia or something. Par- Parkinsonia, Parthenium, something wretched and terrible. Put that in there.
So their first place was a bird of paradise, and the second one was the prickly pear for first and second place. And I just could not believe it. I had my giggles. But yeah, would love to know, guys. Jump on the socials for this week and tell us whether that should have been the responsibility of the judge or the steward or both of them to make sure that that doesn't happen within a competition that is so clearly stated what it's supposed to be about.
Yeah, I think this it's probably like, because you've got two chances there, two gates.
Yeah.
So the stewards, when people submit their photograph, I think there's every opportunity for the stewards to say, lovely photo, however, does not meet the criteria for this section. We're going to chuck it in the general flower photography or whatever because it doesn't meet this one. And then the judges should refuse to judge it, I reckon. It is like, if you're like, oh, you know, I'm going to judge the best Shire horse category, and someone turns up with a Shetland like that, it clearly does not meet the criteria. You can't, you know, judge them against each other, and it's perpetuating misinformation. Like, they're not native. The category clearly says native, and this is like, country shows are often a very good opportunity to bridge that city country gap. And if you've got all these people who don't know what's a noxious weed or what, and they're going, oh yeah, look at that lovely native plant and it's a prickly pear, that's a big problem. So that's how I feel. So yeah, but jump on and tell us how you feel, and tell us also, what are the controversial things that have happened at your local show? Because I know one where there was I think it was a plum pudding competition, and there's a traditional shape of a plum pudding in the bush that you cook it in a milk tin, right? So it's a cylindrical one. And I know this lady baked her plum pudding, or boiled it, however you cook it, in the milk tin, and then took it to the local show and decanted it. And she was disqualified because it wasn't done in a pudding basin. And she's like, hold on, this is a traditional Australian bush way of cooking a plum pudding, and you've disqualified me because it's the wrong type. But it was the CWA show, and those ladies do not muck around when it comes to meeting standards. They said, no, it clearly should have been in a pudding basin. Pudding belongs in a pudding basin. Not my problem that you're too pov and have to cook it in a milk tin. So yeah, that's the controversy that I've seen firsthand at a local show.
I look forward to hearing more stories as it comes through over the socials.
Oh, and my husband's grandfather, when Wagyus first came into Australia, some Wagyus came to the local country show, and he's like an old cattleman from way back. And people were trying to explain to him what a Wagyu was and why they were so special. And he said, special? I've had better looking things tied up to trees. So probably that's where I get my incredible bias of Wagyus from, because we have had better looking things tied up to trees because they're actually quite wretched looking creatures. But anyway, if you enjoy eating them, get around it. Oh, what's next on our list, Katja, to discuss?
The ABC advisory.
Yeah, so that's something new that I'm doing. I have been appointed to the ABC advisory panel. Don't get all excited. It is not the board. I do not get to make any direct decisions about what the ABC does or how it spends its money. What I am there for is to utilize my broad networks to find out what you, the viewers, the users of the ABC, think and feel about, primarily about programming decisions. What do we not see enough of? What do we need to see more of? But we also look at things around, how do you access the ABC? And so the last meeting that I just went to, we had like a big workshop, and we had a big sort of discussion around iView. And is it easy to use? What could we do to make people use it more? You know, does it have the right content on there? And I'm really excited about this because, as you know, I sit on quite a few boards and committees and those sorts of things. And I was a little bit anxious going into this one. The group of us that are on this advisory panel are very, very diverse, from all different parts of Australia, from all different sort of walks of life, professions, backgrounds, ethnicities, all these sorts of things. But it was so refreshing to sit at a table with a group of people who had one common goal, and that is to make the ABC the best that it can possibly be. And we were all there with that single goal. And, you know, we had some really good discussions. It was really, really interesting. So every now and again, when they ask me a specific question, I will get Katja to pop in the newsletter a link to a survey to gather that sort of information. You might see links or questions pop up on our socials from now on, because, you know, I joined it because I'm really, really excited about the opportunity to take the rural and remote and regional agricultural based voice straight to the heart of the ABC. The meeting was in the head office in Ultimo. That was all really cool. You know, in the foyer, there's the TARDIS and some giant play school stuffies, like giant, like huge, like as big as me. Yes, it was really exciting and really interesting and really, really refreshing to sit around a table with no egos, with no desire to have a win or to get your own way. It's just have open and honest conversation about what your community thinks and feels, and taking the commonalities out of those things and saying we can, you know, this is a recommendation we can make about fixing this or making this better. So yeah, it's really exciting and it was good fun.
It's exciting. We don't have free to air in our house. Like we can't get it. We can't get the reception, which is like crazy because realistically we're not that far out of town and we just can't get it. So we do watch it on iView. But also I love iView because I can choose what the kids watch. And I'm very particular about what I do and don't let them watch, particularly at their young age when they can't differentiate between, you know, rudeness or something like that.
Yeah.
Like I will not let them watch Peppa Pig or, you know, other things like that. I won't do it. I won't do it. That's my particular thing. But I love iView for that flexibility and the range that they have on there, as well as for their educational shows, because we do some homeschooling here, especially with my preschooler. So I'm doing all her schooling, and just the range of educational shows that they have, where if she's in a particular mood where she's not wanting to, you know, sit down and do something with me, or we're not outside counting or doing ABC or spelling or something like that, if she's just had enough, because she's with me all the time, if she's just had enough and she needs some space, I can put on number blocks, or I can put on alpha blocks, or, you know, we can go through some of those, or we can sit down and watch an episode of, say, Bluey together and then talk about it. What do you see? What are they talking about? You know, that kind of thing. And it's all different learning, and it's something that you can do together as well, either a solo.
And did you know there is over 9,000 hours of programs available on iView? If you, and like people say, I can't find anything to watch on Netflix or whatever, iView is free for a start. They have movies and stuff on there as well that are on demand that you can access. They have live, so like you, Katja, if you can't get free to air TV via your Vast box or whatever, because our Vast box has died, so we don't have free to air at the moment. You can watch the news live as it happens, like any other thing. Yeah, and like the education programs, because I grew up with the ABC. We didn't have any commercial TV where I lived until I was about 11 or 12. So we just had the ABC and we had to watch. We had no choice. Whatever it was on, we were watching it. And so you were exposed to so many different programs and shows and those sorts of things. And the capacity and the capabilities of what the ABC can deliver, you know, is extraordinary. And I really think that, you know, they're a genuine asset to Australia. So I want to make sure that, you know, people stop saying shit like defund the ABC. No, don't defund them. If you don't like what they're doing, give them more money, because then they can do more different things. Like, if you don't like it, they need to be able to afford to do other stuff. And it's defunding them won't work. I can tell you that right now. Like,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting, and it's not a big workload, but I have to do actually, like, I get homework, I have to actually like watch specific things, or like go to the ABC website and try to do specific things so I can give direct feedback. So you might also on the socials and that get directions to do that sort of stuff. So yeah, I'm really excited for you all to sort of come along with me like this. And so when I say my community says X, Y, and Z, I know that I've given you guys the opportunity to have that direct voice into the ABC. So yeah, it's going to be really good, I think. I hope.
Yes. And if you're not on the newsletter, the link is always in the show notes. So make sure you go and click on that. We send out a fortnightly newsletter. It's not junk. It's recaps,
it's
and
useful
information. Stuff. Yep.
So yeah, we asked about gumboots a couple of episodes ago, and we have an AgFab who has sent in a recommendation. So it was Nicole who asked about what the best gumboots were. So I'll put up a social tile telling her, but Natasha's a dairy farmer, so obviously she knows her gumboots. She knows what's what. I bet she doesn't get around wearing Kmart gumboots.
She does not.
So she has recommended Bogs. Never worn them. Have you worn them, Katja?
No, I'd never heard of them.
I've heard of them, but I've had no compulsion to wear gumboots, obviously. But yeah, 5 hours a day at least in gumboots. Not a chance. Would not be a dairy farmer for all the money in the world. You guys have an amazingly hard job. 2 jobs in agriculture I will not do, and that is pick fruit and be a dairy farmer. Like, absolutely, I reckon they're the 2 hardest jobs in ag. When people say, oh, fruit picking's unskilled work, bullshit. You've obviously never picked fruit. Even in your own backyard, the number of times you pick it off and you tear the skin, and it's like, you try to do that on a commercial scale. I did it when I was a kid, and was my brother's girlfriend's grandma was supervising me. She'd just smack me across the back of the head every time I got it wrong. So
old school.
I don't see that being appropriate in this day and age, but I learned pretty fast about how to pluck them damn mandarins off the tree, that's for sure.
Yes. So thank you so much, Natasha, for sending that through. So they are the Bogs. We'll have the link in the show notes. She likes the half ones, so the half size in the wetsuit material. And yeah, she can do over 5 hours in them. So amazing. They must be pretty awesome.
I'll get on to Bogs and see if they'll give us a discount code. I've never like engaged with them, obviously, but I don't even know where they're made. They might even be Australian for all I know.
Well, Gillian's writing a note on that.
I am. I'm Googling it actually on the podcast, which is probably not cool, but anyway.
I think I sent you a link too.
You might have. I probably didn't read it, but that's okay. I'll follow them on Instagram first before I ask them for stuff, because that's usually the right
thing to do.
Yeah. No. All right. I will get on to them and ask them for a discount code and explain to them why. And so if you want some gumboots, fingers crossed, we will get a discount code for you.
I know I need a new pair.
I don't. I don't need gumboots at all. Even after the rain we've had, I do not require any form of gumboots. I just went around in my thongs. All right, because we had summer rain. If it was a winter rain, maybe a different story. All right, what else have we got? Stay-at-home mums, Katja. This is a controversial one, isn't it?
It is very.
Some people can be long-term versus short-term.
So this was sent through by an AgFab who sent through a reel. Now the reel discusses the short-term versus the long-term. So this is hard, because whether you're looking at a non-family farming family business or someone in rural or city, this applies. So a lot of the time they will say, okay, so mum will stay home, or dad, but most of the time it's still mum will stay home and be the primary carer of the kids. So you're dropping down to a one-income family, or dropping the workload down to one person out in the workplace, whether that's farm or town. For the mum or the primary carer, that means they're not getting superannuation. It means they will have a big gap in the workforce, and that still is a big thing when you go to be re-employed. So even if you're like, yep, so I was out of the workplace for, if you have one kid, that can be up to, somewhere between 3 to 5 years. If you have multiple kids, you could be out of the work market for, say, 10, 15, 20 years, the more kids you have in your family unit. That is a massive gap in your resume that employers, especially if it's in a male-dominated area, don't care about. But you've been out too long. They don't see you'll need training, you'll need all sorts of things to get yourself back into that workforce, which then costs us dollars. And again, you don't have that super to fall back on. You don't have savings to fall back on. If the family farming business or, your partner's not paying for things for you, you will start going backwards. Like if you're not able to, buy new clothing to replace any damaged or worn stuff, if you're not able to buy, the beauty products that you usually wear, or the skincare products, the health products that you need, if you're putting, yourself on the back burner because you're not able to pay for that doctor's appointment or the surgery that's coming up. But then what they're also finding is, in the long term, divorce is actually on the increase still, particularly in Australia. And so what they're finding is all these women are getting to their late 40s, 50s, 60s, and all of a sudden they're divorcing because they have put everything they have into the marriage and into the kids, and they have nothing, and no one has
Yeah, and they end up homeless and vulnerable, been out of the job market for so long. They don't have, like, everyone has relevant skills, right? But you don't have the sort of skills that are going to get you back into a high-paying role. It's like, yeah, I can cook and I can clean and I can wrangle kids. But if you're sort of 40 or 50 years old, your body start, like, not saying you can't do that when you're older, obviously people do, but you need to start thinking about things that are less physically demanding and those sorts of things to sort of plan for your future and that income gap. And this is something that I've always sort of wrestled with and struggled with. Like, I have a definite preference for, and I've been really, really privileged to be able to raise my kids, like stay home with my kids because of where we live, et cetera, et cetera. And that's what I think was best for my kids. But I also don't judge women. If you need to go back to work, if you want to go back to work, that is your choice and your decision. Like, and if you want to use childcare, if you want to put your kids in childcare center, then that's, I support other women in doing that. And this is the thing, I think we often judge each other, like, oh, well, how dare you put your baby back in a daycare center so you can go to work. Like, yeah, I can go to work, but you don't know that lady doesn't need to go to work for financial reasons, to keep her job, to keep her sanity. Like, you stay out of other people's decisions and other people's business. And I just wish we had a system that was far more flexible in Australia, that enabled women to stay home longer if they wanted to. Like, for example, you get a childcare subsidy, which goes directly to the childcare centre, and it's around $55 a day. Let's just give that to the family. If they just give it to them, why are we propping up childcare centres when we should be propping up families? They can still take that $55 and give it to a childcare centre if they choose. They might give it to their nan. They might give it to their older sister or brother who might be able to watch the kids while they're at work. They may use that money to pad out their budget to stay home and contribute to the household in other ways. And another thing, if I hear of any man or woman in this gender sort of equality world who will not pay for their partner's clothing, beauty products, or health products while they're staying home having children, I will throw hands. How fucking dare you not contribute to the upkeep of your partner whilst they are rearing your children and cannot contribute financially? Like, that is, and I do know it happens, that is outrageous. That is an outrageous thing. And I understand budgets, and I understand not everyone has a lot of money, but to just simply say to your partner, oh, no, babe, you're not working anymore, so I'm not going to help you buy a new pair of jeans. Like, absolutely not. That is not on. Yeah, no, not happening.
I think as well, like, when you think about a lot of these women going back into the workforce, especially if they've had multiple children, they could very much be in that 45 age range where perimenopause and menopause is hitting hard as well. And so there's still not a lot of that I've heard. I'm not in that age demographic yet.
I am.
You are. Like, what's the support for them in the workplace if they haven't left or haven't been out of it that long? But then I don't think there's that support as well when they're trying to get back into the workforce and you've got all of that going on in your body.
And I think this is the big sort of, like, we talk about the gender pay gap and gender equality and those sorts of things. And we do know that employers are reluctant to employ women because they will have babies and take time out of the workforce, because they have every month they could have debilitating, cramps, and they might have endometriosis and all those other associated sort of struggles that go along with that. And then you hit 45-ish, 50, and you think, oh, that's finally behind me. No, it's not. You feel like crap all the time. It's bullshit. But like, and these sort of studies have been done and it's been quantified and all that sort of thing. Like, even with those sort of challenges in like the equality of the input, women are still contributing like a full-time role, despite, not being able, they may not be able to work for, I don't know, depends on how unwell you do get when you cycle a week, a month, or having to have, a year off when you have a baby, because we are more adept at multitasking, getting the job done, being flexible. And whether that's like sort of a feminist type thing that we're just used to dealing with the mountains of shit that come towards us at all times, or whether that's just something that our brains are shaped to do because we raise children and do multiple different things, I don't know. But yeah, it's the not being able to earn while you're having kids and then becoming reliant on a single income family. If you're lucky, some women are single mothers through no fault of their own. Circumstances change suddenly and rapidly, and then they are left to raise children by themselves. It puts them in a very challenging position. And yeah, I don't know. I think we do need to give women and families more support. We all talk about, oh, we need to make more Australian babies because we don't want immigrants and all this sort of shenanigans and carry on. But honestly, you can't have it both ways. If you want to have Australian residents for whatever reason, be it racist or whatever, I'm pretty sure it's racist. But if you're invested in breeding up more Australians, then you need to support Australian families and especially women, because, we're the ones actually doing the hard work when it comes to having a baby. Mm-hmm. And I'll guarantee you, if men could have babies, they wouldn't, because they know how tough it is. I don't reckon they'd be able to handle it, to be honest. I reckon they couldn't hack it.
They do use sleep deprivation as a torture tactic, and that's what a lot of women go through when they have kids.
But that is just sleep deprivation. It's not sleep deprivation leaking from multiple orifices and parts of your body, having 24/7, having a small naked monkey-like creature clinging to you that screams, because you're also getting like the noise torture as well, that screams incessantly for sometimes baffling reasons that you cannot figure out, especially if it's your first baby. You go out of your mind. And yes, before you all go like, oh, it's wonderful, I'm sure there's wonderful husbands out there. I'm sure that, a lot more men these days are picking up some of that load and helping out and those sorts of things, but it does not take away from the fact that the physical toll, 100% on the woman for 9 months plus. So yeah, how do we make it better? I think that's the big policy question. How do we make it better for women to just exist? The challenge.
One of the things that I love teaching in my Know Your Timings course is I've talked about to lots of women to make this course, and one of the things is identity. And a lot of people struggle with being stay-at-home mums because no one else is validating your work. Same as if you're a farm wife or a female farmer in certain roles on the farm. No one else is going to validate your role. You sort of know what you're doing, what you're accountable for. And so I sit down with my ladies and we go through everything that you do in a day, everything you do in a week, everything you do in a season, and we write it down. Okay, how many of those jobs can you actually pay someone to do that you're doing for free? Yeah. So are you doing the cooking? Are you doing the cleaning? Are you doing the washing? Are you looking after your child or children? Are you maintaining the cars? Are you taking everything to an appointment? Are you the manager of the house? Because the other day I got sent a reel and people get paid to manage someone else's household. So you work 2 days ahead of the family and you're sorting out all the ballet clothes and you're doing all the meal prep for them and stuff like that. They are jobs and they are what we are doing as stay-at-home mums for free. So to be able to
I've just Googled this, and this is in American dollars because then I'll have to convert it into Australian dollars. So, being a stay-at-home parent, if you would like to all the different jobs and that make up the totality of being a stay-at-home parent, the annual salary would be around $178,000 a year. So I'll just quickly calculate that, convert that 78,000.
And that's probably without the extra farming jobs as
Yeah.
well. Like
Yeah,
imagine
because
if you
they're just talking about an urban household.
Yeah.
Oh, hang on, I need to stick another zero on there.
So for our urban listeners, those extra jobs would be caring for animals. It would be doing the bookwork. It would be doing some of the accountancy, some of the legislation, the HR, the recruitment, the marketing, all of those roles as well.
Okay, so that's around $250,000 Australian a year, just for a simple urban, like housewife type arrangement, stay-at-home mum. So that's with children. That's not just sans children. Because I don't know, Katja, how much does a high-priced escort run for these days?
Oh, I don't know.
Did we include that in our calculations?
I think that should be a listener interaction there. Guys, do you reckon that should be put on top of those calculations as well?
I don't know. I don't know if I could be afforded, to be honest. I'm pretty special.
You made me blush.
I do hope you're putting this one up on YouTube.
Let's see what I can do.
We'll lose our G rating if we keep it up.
For the AgFab who has sent this through as a discussion topic, I hope that we covered everything and more that you were hoping we would on this. But let's jump into our fourth and final topic for this evening, and that is Pauline Hanson's statement about the backward step of women's rights in Australia, and that enough is enough with this government. Gillian, do you want to take the lead on this one?
No, I don't, because I don't know if I just sort of tune her out, to be completely honest. I don't know if she's heard this one. What is Pauline's problem now, seeing as how she is this about the trans women thing, or is this something different? This is the giggle versus tickle or something.
The Albanese government trying to remove the legal definition of women out of the country's constitution and policies.
Okay, so Julia Gillard actually did that, changed what the legal definition of a woman was in Australia when she was Prime Minister. And I think this all stems from, so there was a legal case, it's called Giggle versus Tickle, which is, there was a online app platform for specific, solely for ladies. It was like a women's support group. It's like us, but on a broader scale and much better at monetizing it. So a transgender person, I'm not sure if they uses she pronouns or they pronouns, so I better be careful. I don't want us to go to court because we have $0 to fight this nonsense. So they were booted off the app because they did not look particularly feminine, which is whatever. And so this is a very challenging sort of thing where in one way you could say, because that's very popular, there's a lot of activists out there getting very wound up about transgender people and their rights. And it's become very popular to say that trans rights are women's rights. But as like there's a discussion we were just having before, I don't know if they can ever be truly the same. Like, I don't mind trans people, they don't bother me in the slightest, but at the same time, whilst they may transition to looking like a woman so that their outsides can match their insides, that's fine, don't have a problem with that. They will never actually experience the things that make, what I believe, make you a woman. They won't have a period. They won't have to suffer the indignity of developing early and being ogled by grown men. They will never have to, be bear children. There's a lot more than more than appearance. I believe very strongly there's more to being a woman than simply how you look. Mm-hmm. And I think that is the core issue here, is that I do believe that women, biological women, however you may choose to be biological, because there's also like intersex, and there's lots of different ways that a biological woman can be made. It's not simply just XY versus XX. Did I get that right? My science is a bit old and rusty, but there's more than just that. And I understand and appreciate all that. But I do believe very strongly too that women deserve and should have women's only spaces. And if one woman objects, if she says, no, I don't feel comfortable with a transgender person here in this space that I believe is for people like me, then they shouldn't have to share that space. Mm-hmm. Because we've fought as women, and especially women in ag, we know this very clearly. We've fought so long to have professional sport, to compete at the Olympics, to have access to going into the water without wearing a neck to knee sort of bathing costume. We have fought long and hard to vote. We have fought for our very existence. And I understand that transgender people are also exposed to bigotry, and they're also exposed to a lot of different, sort of discrimination and those sorts of things. But that's their struggle. That's a transgender person's struggle. It's not a woman's struggle. Some things we may share, but we're not the same in that sense. Some things are unique. And I think we need to be able to have a sensible, mature discussion about that. Because and again, I don't want, because a lot of people out there go, oh, transgender people, they're freaks and they don't deserve to exist and we should just all get rid of them all. No. But I think a lot of this discussion, it's like we talk about the transgender person's rights and feelings, but what about the rights and feelings of women? Because they're not the same. They're they might be aligned in some cases, but they're not the same. But we don't seem to be able to have that conversation without being called names or without it getting really nasty and getting death threats and those sorts of things. It's like, hang on, I'm trying to just say how I feel in a non-hateful way, and all of a sudden I'm a terrible person and you're going to come and kill me. That sort of discourse also just makes it worse and more inflammatory. So that's how I feel. And I've thought long and hard about this because I do have some transgender friends, and they are also they struggle with it themselves as well. But one of them said to me, she said, why would I want to go somewhere where I'm not welcome? Mm. Why would I want to be a part of something when when they could go and find a different community or platform or app or changing room or whatever that might be where they are welcomed? She said, because I don't want to make anyone else uncomfortable just to prove a point. And I think we're losing that because some people are uncomfortable for whatever reasons. It might just be through ignorance. They might never have encountered a transgender person before. And if you haven't, it can be quite confronting. Mm. But it's like, we shouldn't, I don't know what the right answer to this one is either. But what do you think? Do you have a LGBTQI community in Dubbo? I'm assuming you do. I hope I got all the letters in there.
Yep. Yeah, we do. Yep. No, they're here. They're doing their thing. I think it should be kept separate. And because I just want everyone to feel comfortable. I want everyone to feel like they can be who they can be in their space. But I think it's also very different. And I think, there are men, there are women, and there is whatever you choose to identify as and be. And I think the division needs to be there to protect everybody. For me, it's about protection, and it's about being comfortable, and it's being provided for, because as you said, it's all different. And I think that's a really important discussion to have, because everyone has the right to be supported and protected. And I think the only way we can do that is by not taking over either the male gender or the female gender, but creating something new and supportive.
If you wanted to be really controversial about it, it's really just another example of a man trying to force their way into a women's space and take away from women. And I do know there's some lesbian people that feel that way. They're like, we worked really hard to get like visibility and rights as lesbian women. And they said, and now man's come along and is just telling us what we should do again. And they're like, no, I'm a lesbian woman. I'm a woman who loves women. I don't need to change anything about myself. I'm quite happy and satisfied the way that I am. I don't, yeah. And it's, it's like there's no one size fits all solution to this. I think we can just calm down with everybody hating each other for a start. Yeah. But there also needs to be some appreciation that women deserve to feel safe and supported in their own spaces. And if that means that excluding a transgender person, because if you're already in a club and this person comes along and they want to join the club and it makes you feel unsafe, then that's not a safe place for you. Why should you have to surrender your safe space to make someone else happy when you were there first? Like, and I know there's discrimination laws and all this sorts of stuff, and it's getting it's gone, it's not sensible anymore. We're not having sensible discussions around this. And I think what really, really brought it home for me was there was a lot of discussion in the UK. It stemmed from, it was like an erasure of women from medical terminology. So you were no longer a mother, you were a birth parent or a birthing parent, right? It was not breastfeeding, it was chest feeding. Like, you were not, and this is like, I do know that there are some people who transition from women to men, but you were no longer a woman, you weren't getting a notice as a pap smear, you were a person with a uterus or a cervix. So like, it's by trying to be inclusive and save people's feelings, you're erasing 50% of the population, which is not right either. So, and this is not, it's, I think we just need to have a bit more common sense about this. Like, sometimes you don't get to have everything you want. You might transition and feel like a woman and look like a woman and finally look like your true self. You still don't need a pap smear. Like there are some things that are an integral part of being female that you will never experience. And I don't think we should pretend that that's going to happen just so you can feel happy about it. Like, because that devalues everything that we have to live with. So it's not how, like, and I think we've done it very wrong from the jump. Everyone got all bent out of shape, and it was just like two very polarizing camps about trans people must not exist and trans people are like the second coming of Jesus. And it was just like, in the middle of that, there's a whole heap of people who really don't give a shit. They just want to get on with their lives. And this includes trans people. They just want to get on with their lives and not be drawn into some big, argument, because people are debating their very right to exist. And that's not right either. Everyone just got too excited about things. We got carried away about, I think, pandering to activists. We're not even pandering to transgender people. We're pandering to a very small group of activists who, for whatever reason, are nasty, nasty people. I don't think I've ever encountered an activist, a gender-based activist, who's not a complete raving lunatic, to be completely honest. That goes to any sort of activist. If you are a dyed-in-the-wool activist of anything, 9 times out of 10, 99.99 times out of 100, you are going to be stark raving mad. So...
And let's go back to common courtesy and good manners. We want everyone to feel comfortable, supported. Supported. What do we teach our kids? We teach our kids to be kind, to be supportive, but also to not be walked over. And I think if we can bring those general tactics back into common day life and political practice, then I think we would be better as a nation going forward.
And I think, that's been really disappointing that our political class has been so quick to surrender our rights as women to appease an activist group. They've just been like, yeah, well, of course, this group of people can now be counted as women.
Yeah.
And they just, and again, a group of men are raising the rights of women. What a surprise. But anyway,
leaving today's episode on a very controversial topic. But if you guys want to head over to the socials and have a comment on what we've been talking about today, about the flora and fauna in the photography section at the shows, any other controversies that have come up during the shows, especially the CWA ones, any of the surveys that Gillian will be putting through the ABC advisory, the gumboots, the stay-at-home mums, short-term versus long-term, and of course our finishing statements with Pauline Hanson and the right for women, and what that means, you know, as a general topic. So we hope you guys have enjoyed today's episode, and we look forward to seeing you over on the socials. Until next time.
Oh, and don't do any of your hateful bullshit on the socials, because we won't stand for it. Like, don't start getting on there and go like trans people are terrible, blah, blah, blah. We won't stand for that.
No.
Respectful, common sense, you know, decisions, discussions, you know, considering all different aspects. Quite happy to hear your thoughts and experiences. We don't want hate. We won't have it. So, yeah. No. Thanks
Gillian
very much.
and I are both very quick to shut down hate.
I will make fun of you on my Twitter profile if you do that, because there's a very good chance you could end up like in a newspaper article if you start with that bullshit. So don't do it.
Be kind, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.